Good evening and welcome to day 4, stage 4, beer number 4. Tour de Beer, Tour de France. I'm Uncle Frank with Team Beer Guts. Thank you for joining us for another video. And yeah, let's talk real quick about today's stage, and then we're going to talk about today's beer. If you're new to the channel, what we've been doing is a different beer every day of the Tour de France. We give a quick recap of the stage, and then we talk about the beer. Today's stage, it was actually kind of normal. Didn't have to worry about weather, wasn't a bunch of crashes, there's always a few. Reflecting back onto yesterday, nothing compared to like that. And a lot of the people that we thought were going to be hurt or maybe abandoned, they did not have to do that, so that's good. Breakaway, about 2 guys most of the race. Then 1 guy. And man, I thought he had it, and what a brave and ballsy choice for him to just keep on going. He did get most aggressive rider. He did not win the stage. That's got to be heartbreaking to just race for 100 and whatever X kilometers and to get caught within the last 200 meters. Yeah, man, you could see him just going, looking over the left, looking over the right, but the peloton brought him back in, which led to what it was supposed to be a sprint finish amongst some of the sprint favorites, except for Caleb Ewan, who is out from yesterday's crash. So, great lead out by all the teams. Looking for Peter Sagan, as I usually do, because he is one of my favorites. Daniel Oss gave him a great lead out and then threw him into the bunch that was there. I felt like the lead out might have slowed down a little bit, making Peter have to dance to whichever side he had to get to. But I kind of think it didn't matter because the missile, Mark Cavendish, he's back. And man, he looked good. And what a boost from the backside going around. Peter trying to get there. If it was another, 20 yards, he may have gotten up to that front, but too many people for him to work around. And Cavendish wins his 31st ever stage in the Tour de France in the same place that he won his last stage. And this is a race he thought he'd never be back at. Never be back at the Tour, thought his career might have been over. Not only that, but he ends up winning a stage at the Tour, and his emotional outburst at the end, you got to see the video. It's actually pretty funny. It's really good, so good for him. So great stage, classic. So it was like going back in time, seeing Sagan and Andre Greipel in that mix as well. So for today's beer, I kind of went back in time. Went to lunch today at a place called Martha's Exchange in Nashua, New Hampshire. Martha's has been around forever, one of the brewing OGs. And Greg Ouellette and Mark and the crew there have been doing this for a long time and doing it really, really well. Had a conversation with Greg, and it's one of those things where these places that are known for all of their IPAs, and they finally start to do like, yeah, we're going to try a Bock, and they kind of do it well, and people are like, oh, they do such a great job at Bock. Go to the guys who've been doing it for a long time and do it really well. And sometimes they don't do it really well. And they're like, oh, it's a tasty beer, but I don't like Bock, I'll go back to IPA. Might not be that great. Martha's does all the different styles and does them all really, really well. So not only go back to an OG, I went to an OG beer. So they do can there, they do the crowlers, and they do their canning as well. This is pretty fresh. This was canned on 6/22, so that's a nice fresh beer. And this is the Share and Exchange Rye Ale. You're going to say, what's a rye ale? A rye pale ale. So part of the grain bill is going to be rye malt. This isn't going to taste like rye bread, because a lot of rye bread is because of the spicing, the caraway seeds and things like that in it. What rye does do is gives it a bready and dry finish to the beer. So let's take a look at this one. Pouring great color, nice head, except for it looks like a leaf. I have a leaf in my glass, damn it. I am outside because it is way too hot in the apartment. It's hot out here too, but until the AC kicks in while I've been gone, I'm like, I'm just going to sit outside where there's a breeze. So you can see there's a nice goldenish color to this beer. So if you're using some pale or Pilsner malt and you throw a percentage of your rye malt into it, think of it, instead of using wheat, which gives it that dry kind of straw-ish flavor, again, rye, but a spicy kind of dry to it, and it delivers a bite. And a little bit of a bite allows the hops to pop through a little bit more, which is one of the reasons I love using rye in pale ales and even in IPAs. Man, that's just a good beer. This clocks in at 6.1%, so not too big. This beer, because of its complex maltiness, this can go with a lot of different things. Your typical foods, your burgers, your steaks. If I was to throw this down with something else, I may even want to have this to either offset something like a caprese salad, you know, your fresh mozzarella with basil and some balsamic vinegar, because you get a little bit of tang of that. This accompanies the tang, but also cuts through the thickness of the cheese. So this hot day caprese salad sounds like a good idea. I might just have that for dinner. Aroma, hops, duh. Some melon in there. Classic hop flavors, almost in your Cascade, your Nugget, those types of things that are in this beer. And I didn't ask Greg, and if we were talking about it, we were talking about a bunch of different things. So he may have told me what hops were in this. I don't remember exactly, but it's classic hop flavor without being too bitter. So it's not in your face bitter. It's not rip your tongue off bitter like your old school pales and IPAs. But it's not your juicy, fruity, soft, cloudy New England IPA either. This is a classic pale ale, really balanced. You've got breadiness of the malt, again the dry and spicy kind of snap that I call it from the rye malt. Allows the hops to come through, classic, not noble, but classic American hops on there. And a little bit of fruitiness, and that fruitiness is probably coming from the esteriness of whatever yeast strain that they're using. Rye ales can be fermented anywhere between 66 and 72 degrees. The warmer it is, the more esters you're going to get out of that. The lower, the more phenolics you're going to get out of it. Phenolics are spicy. A beer like this is a really good example of fermenting warm to get your esters and some fruit, but because of the dryness, it almost has a bit of phenolic character to it. This is going to go really good with my caprese salad. So, welcome once again, and thanks for joining us for today's edition. Tomorrow is day 5, is a time trial. I'm really interested to see how that works out. Yellow Jersey leader is still in the lead with Julien Alaphilippe, one of my favorites to win the overall tour, 8 seconds behind. Not sure what beer we're going to have tomorrow. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out. Thanks again for tuning in. For Tour de France and Tour de Beer, I'm Uncle Frank. Cheers.